look at that. I cut myself off this time. Look at it. See, I give you a
Now
heads
you know
up.
how it feels.
It feels fine. It's whatever.
Oh, fuck
Welcome welcome to the episode of Gaming Podcast, episode 74. Hope all of you are doing good. Caboose, glad to have you back, my man.
Glad to be back. Yeah, I would say I'm like excited about the topics we have today,
Yes.
but I don't know if that's the word that is appropriate to use. But I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, man. And then Steve, Blind Gamer, Steve, new merch.
Yes, I'm actually wearing it today.
And your
It came in
anniversary.
yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah,
Awesome.
nice
Very
and
nice,
embroidered.
actually.
I even got like my own logo, like embroidered
really
on
like
the thing
that.
too. It actually
That's
turned out
good,
pretty
man.
well, so I'm pretty happy. Yeah, so yesterday, well, actually, sorry, no, 2 days ago on Monday, when this goes up, it was the 10th anniversary of me uploading my very first Blind Gamer episode, which essentially sent me on this 10-year path of working in the video game industry. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I've got some new merch. Yeah, I've got some stuff that's specific to me, but then also there's some like generic kind of like accessibility, fun sort of sayings and stuff that you can really get. SteveSailor.store if you want to check it out. But yeah, it's comfy. It's Fourth Wall. If you're familiar with Fourth Wall creators and use them, they got great stuff, and I've used them before, and yeah, great quality too. So,
Awesome.
but yeah, no, they're good. Doing good. Good to see you guys.
Awesome, man. Yeah, good to see you as well. Awesome, great company for Fourth Wall. My friend Zach Bussey is always talking about them. So, really good company. But what is not a good company right now is what's happening with W Games. So, Wonder Woman
Crazy transition,
has been canceled. What's going on, man?
Yeah,
What's going
so
on? Jason Schreier broke out the news first of all. I guess.
Yeah, Jason Schreier breaks the news today over at Bloomberg with a headline that reads, Warner Bros. Shuts down 3 game studios, cancels the Wonder Woman title. There was a memo even, I think, that was acquired by Polygon, I might have been, where WB Games just essentially said that they're shifting their strategic priorities. And with that, the Wonder Woman game was no longer part of their strategic priorities. And I think it's just shocking. So they've shut down 3 studios, Monolith Productions, which are the guys that made or were going to make Wonder Woman, but also made the Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War games. They also made, I think, Fear. They
made the Matrix Online.
They have 30 years of history backing them. So it's absolutely shocking. But Monolith getting shut down. Player First Games, which was just acquired, I think, last year in July by WB Games, have only made 1 game, and it's Multiverses. And then Warner Brothers Games San Diego, which I imagine was one of their like sort of support studios, and not necessarily like they're making games, but rather like a WB Montreal almost, where they get outsourced to work on all of the WB Games stuff.
Yeah, they have a few of those like city specific, like Boston, Montreal, and San Diego. Yeah.
And so 3 studio shutdowns, obviously with Monolith getting shut down, the Wonder Woman game is no longer happening. When
was this announced? 2021?
2021.
2021, yeah.
The game was
my
honestly
God.
one of the craziest reveals too, because Jeff Keighley was like, nobody has this on their bingo card. It didn't leak. There was no information about this. We just got a Wonder Woman trailer, and it was crazy. And we were all under the assumption that, it's going to take about 5 years to develop. We just got the announcement. This is how these things go in the games industry. But then a couple of weeks ago, Jason Schreier reported that it reset development. At some point last year, they were removing the Nemesis system. They were making it a more traditional third-person action adventure. And it looks like whatever they had done throughout that year of 2024 wasn't working out or wasn't to WB Games' satisfaction. So they shuttered the studio entirely, which is... that's insanity. It's insanity. Not to justify the other 2 studio shutdowns, but to shut down a studio with 30 years of experience backing them, and the guys who pioneered and invented the Nemesis system, which is one of the coolest new things in video games, is bizarre to me. It's bizarre. We will most likely will never see the Nemesis system utilized in a game ever again.
No, it's like what I found also so silly about it was that it's a Nemesis system that they patented, so only them can, like, they could be able to create it. And they never made any games with it. Like, it just baffles my mind that basically for like over a decade they tried to build they couldn't even make one game after patenting it of, oh yeah, no, this is a great system, and they couldn't even could make it work. So
they clutched their pearls, and then they said, you can't have this, but we're not going to do anything with it. Like, I can't believe it.
Here's the thing. it really comes down to like we could talk about specifically the problems at WB Games specifically, but I think it just really comes at to it's WB. In reality, if you think it, WB like has ruined so many of DC properties specifically. They've been chasing money for over a decade now, where that's literally the only way they could be able to make any money. They used to be WB, even just on the film side, they used to be an auteur type studio where you would it's more it's basically more people and directors and creatives that have get to create what they want.
They
Christopher Nolan
in their corner.
Yeah, but the Wachowskis, as you said, basically that you have all these people that can be they have creative freedom to be able to create whatever they want with minimal WB involvement. The offset to that is when you're talking about DC proper. Anything that's DC that is not a Christopher Nolan led or even technically even a Zack Snyder led. Like basically WB has been the bane over DC's neck for decades. Going back as far as the original Superman. The original Superman was supposed to be much different than how we originally had it. That whole flying around the sun, thing to end Superman 1, that was supposed to be the ending of Superman 2. They were shooting both Superman 1 and 2 back to back. And because they
didn't know that.
Richard Donner shot 75% of Superman 2. But they had to go. The producers basically told them, "No, go finish Superman 1, get it out the door, and then we'll finish up Superman 2 and get that out." But they once they did that, they fired Richard Donner after the movie came out, and then they hired Richard Lester to shoot and direct Superman 2. But in order for Richard Lester to get the sole director credit for Superman 2, he had to shoot more than 50% of the movie. So if you ever interested in seeing what Richard Donner's Superman 2 would have looked like, it had Jor-El, it basically had Marlon Brando coming back as Jor-El. It wasn't going to be Superman's mom. It wasn't going to be Kal-El's mom. It was supposed to be Jor-El. They actually were the stuff that was shot specifically with Marlon Brando for Superman 2. Go search out the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2. They had to basically they found the original footage and then they had to kind of edit in a few things because they didn't obviously finish the film, but because they had to include like a screen test that they originally used for Christopher Reeves. Yeah. Go find that. It is a far better film than what
interesting. I had no idea about this. I had no idea about this.
So and partially you could say, okay, that was the producers, the Sal Kynes who produced the Superman, but it was like it goes back even far. If producers have been screwing over DC. Going as far as WB, once WB kind of locked in the rights to DC comics in general, they have been committing to death with every single Superman, like every single DC project. Think about how many DC projects that we've seen that we would have loved to have seen that got canceled or never left the drawing board because they were like, oh no, we got a movie about this in the works. Exactly. You can't do anything.
Exactly. And I mean, you make the perfect point there too, because not too long ago, I think it was just over a week ago, actually, when we got that other Jason Schreier report where he was bullet pointing all of the owned WB studios and what's going on with them and what's happening there. He was talking about their history. When he mentioned WB Montreal, there was mention of a Constantine game that got canceled. Yep. There was mention of a Flash game where when Constantine got canceled, WB higher ups were like, guys, we need you to probably focus on a more popular character, a character like the Flash. And so WB Montreal was like, all right, we're going to do that. And then the movie comes out and it's a bomb. And apparently Warner Bros. Lesson from the Flash movie not doing well was, well, I guess people don't care about the Flash. We shouldn't make a game about him. Yep. And so when we get games,
you don't know how to read reports.
yeah. And so this exactly right.
It's weird that the Flash TV show was more popular than the Flash movie itself.
Yeah. And they were right. CW Flash gets 9 seasons, and granted, okay, let's all be for real. I don't think it was very good past season 3, but those first 3 seasons really bolster the popularity of the Flash, and a lot of people know Grant Gustin is the Flash. They recognize him as that character, and they did so much in expanding that lore in the unit. We got Jake Garrick in there.
We even got Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, we got crossovers and everything.
It was so good.
The CW was going overtime on DC stuff with $10 and a pack of gum as their budget. Yeah, they were doing crazy stuff at the CW, and so you're absolutely right. You're bang on the money that the higher ups have been kind of screwing over the DC property for a very long time now. And we've heard obviously as well that David Zaslav has made mention to specifically say they want to bolster their brands, being Batman when it comes to DC, specifically Batman.
Not
Harry
just
Potter,
DC, just Batman.
yeah, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, and what was the last one? Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Right. So they want to take these 4 big pillars that have been successful, and they're essentially saying, we're just going to do that. And
Which is a terrible mentality to take.
Such a bad mentality. It's such a bad mentality. And the reason why Marvel Games right now is ahead is because they say, hey, we have an IP that has Pandora's box available to you. So we're going to go to PlayStation. We're going to say, hey, pick a development studio.
Yeah.
Pick a development studio. Let them make a game for us. The development studio gets to essentially choose what character. Brian Intar has said in several interviews, they had the choice for whatever Marvel character they wanted to make a game about. That is a level of creative freedom that you need in order to get the games that deliver these 10 out of 10 experiences. Because then you go to a studio and you say, who are you guys passionate about? Who do you like in this Pandora's box? And they say Spider-Man. And it just so happens to be that Spider-Man is one of the most popular characters. So it all works out in that regard. But they could have said Daredevil. They could have said Wolverine, which they're now doing. They had all these options available to them. And because they were passionate about these characters, they were passionate about the game that they were making, and they delivered an amazing product. Now we're looking at one of the biggest franchises in video games that's beloved by millions upon millions of fans, with tons of critical acclaim, Game Award nominations, including Game of the Year. This is the type of success that WB Games can replicate if they were allowing their developers that level of creative freedom. Now, what happens with Wonder Woman, I imagine, is the complete opposite. They say, hey, we want to make a Wonder Woman game. We own Monolith. Just tell them to do it. You know, do they have the passion for it? Do they love the character? Do they love the world? I don't know. But they got to pick up some comic books and they got to learn. They got to put the work in now, and they got to figure it out. Now, Player First Games, these guys were the new team on the block. They were trying to do something different. They wanted to bring in a Smash Bros. Killer. And for one singular second, it was looking scary for Smash Bros. They were up to like 300,000 concurrent players. They have all the WB IP behind them to use in this game, but they're such a small team, they cannot take the pressure. They cannot release the level of content that is required for a game like this at a pace that you need to. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. They took a year off and tried to come back. It didn't end up happening, and it wasn't to WB Games' satisfaction, and honestly, it wasn't to players' satisfaction. But these guys are new. They just started 6 years ago. This is their only game.
Yeah.
Why are we? You just bought the studio. We're shutting
that was
them
like
down.
not even just a few months ago that they're saying we're buying the studio.
We're shutting them down. Like, the only thing that makes sense, and I don't say this as a slight to anybody who has lost their job, but the only thing that I can like kind of understand if you're restructuring or if there needs to be budget cuts is to shut down a support studio like a WB Games San Diego. Now, I don't want to justify it. I don't want to say that it's a good thing that they got shut down, but if you look at the 3 that got shut down, that's the only one where it's like, I guess that's where you could save money if you were trying to. But the studio that developed 30 years worth of games, including a beloved franchise of games with Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor, and then as well the guys who pioneered and invented the Nemesis system that they patented because they thought it was that good, to shut them down is insanity. To shut down these guys that have 6 years of experience behind them and only one game is insanity. And this is a level of mismanagement that's really starting to frustrate me, because we have a game like Hogwarts Legacy come out, sell 20 plus million copies. It's a single player RPG. And the lesson that we learned from that is we need more live service games. We got to stop taking these single player focused studios and force them to make multiplayer games. It doesn't work. Naughty Dog cannot make Call of Duty. Okay, the same way that Infinity Ward cannot make The Last of Us. There are studios that are built around a certain type of game. You need to play into their strength and not slam a game on their desk and tell them they got to figure it out. And now we're looking at, think about Jim Ryan and his leadership at PlayStation and all of the rumors about all these live service games that just didn't make the cut. The Last of Us live service axed. God of War apparently was going to have a live service.
Jesus Christ.
Concord was one of the only ones that got out the door. Massive failure.
2 weeks.
I mean, at least, like if you think about it, the only game that has come out that actually did well, and it was mostly, I think, because the gameplay was already was set in, was Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
But it's like for every Helldivers 2, you have whatever, like you have the games like Concord. You have with the live service, it is hit or miss, and you're absolutely right. Like to be able to close a studio like that just because the Wonder Woman game didn't work out, you created so much like there's so much success there. They're probably I don't know specifically how many people have been at Monolith, but I know that there have been people there that have been there since like even working on the Matrix Online because. I'll just even say it. I mean, who cares right now because the NDA would have been gone by this point. I was supposed to work on Wonder Woman. I was supposed to consult on it for accessibility. I signed a contract over a year ago that I was gonna help. I didn't hear anything. Now, granted, I thought at the time it was more scheduling stuff, so I didn't even think that meant or any sign that the game was in trouble. But when I was in that stage of like when I was talking to them, there was people there that were like, "Yeah, I worked on the Matrix Online," and I was like, "Holy shit! Like that's so cool!" Like it was my favorite game of all time. And so there's been people that have been around for decades at that same studio, and to be able to just close them just because of this bloated project that, as you said, Eric, like basically they just dropped it on their lap. Like WB dropped it on their lap. They probably, I mean, sure, I can guarantee there's probably some people being like, "Yeah, a Wonder Woman game, awesome.
Yeah.
We'd love to be able to do it," but. Like whether or not they pitched it to WB or WB just dropped it on their lap, regardless, just because of one game that they couldn't be able to get right does not mean that they should close the studio. Cancel the project, sure. Wonder Woman didn't seem to work out, understandable. But to be able to close a studio on top of that, just because it's like, well, you cost us $100 million, so you gotta go. And that's not the fault of Monolith. That's the fault of WB.
And I think, you know, what's particularly frustrating, too, is there are several reports now out there, I believe, from Jason Schreier as well. Jason Schreier has been he's crushing it.
I don't think I want to see a tweet from Jason. I'm like, okay, what happened now?
Yeah, what happened now? Yeah.
It's the Grim Reaper.
This guy's the Woj bombs of the games world, right? But seriously, so like every time I see a tweet from this guy, he's talking about WB Games. He's always banging on the money, but he's always reporting about. He talked about how apparently Rocksteady at one point was working on an original IP. What do they then shift to? Franchise, live service, right? He was talking about how as well Monolith was working on an original IP. What do they shift to? Franchise, Wonder Woman game. Like, let them make their original IP, man. If that's what they were passionate about and that's the work that they were putting in, you know, restarting their development cycle and putting them back to square one with a brand new project means you've got another 5 years until we can see anything. Yep. And now we were looking at they were 3 years into developing the other thing. It's going to be 8 years until we see whatever they're working on, if ever. And now we're in the situation that we're in. So what do they own? They own Rocksteady. They own NetherRealm Studios.
Yep.
Rocksteady obviously released a big bomb, but I feel like they would be insane to shut them down considering the Arkham.
But that's the thing.
Right?
It's like it's contradictory to what they just did. Rocksteady has a reputation of making great games. Monolith has a reputation of making great games. Why close Monolith and not Rocksteady? Like why? It's contradictory.
Exactly.
Hypocritical.
I will say, I think part of the reason why they would shut down one and not the other is because of that quote from David Zaslav.
It's the Batman,
on Batman.
Yeah.
It looks like it's all but confirmed at this point that Rocksteady's going back to Batman. They're going to make another Batman game, and I'd assume that was the one thing that saved them. And I'm frightened that it was like a situation of you either make this or you guys are done, because then we are putting them in a position again of like they're forcing it. You know, they're not in this because they want to make another Batman game. They're in this because it'll save the studio.
Yes.
You know?
Yep. And also as well, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I heard added to that as well. Why? Okay, like, and this is not me being callous to the developers or the studio itself. Why not cancel WB Montreal? Why not close WB Montreal? Their record hasn't been super great. They Arkham Origins and Gotham Knights weren't necessarily huge successes. They were mid-level successes. But why are you why are you canceling and shutting down like Monolith and not like say WB Montreal, who probably cost you technically, if you want to think about it, just coming down to the money, cost you more money than Monolith probably did? It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. The one thing, if we're looking at like potential silver linings from here, is that at least WB has starting to shape up and put themselves in a position of we need to be to partner with third party studios. We need to shell out our IP to other studios out there that are passionate. I think there was reports out there as well about how they want to be more collaborative, and that's what they need. Again, that is a huge reason why Marvel Games has been so successful.
Yep.
Now, granted, games like Midnight Suns, Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe sales wise, haven't done the best, but they have the critical acclaim and they bolster the Marvel brand and the Marvel Games brand as a whole, because people look at something like Midnight Suns and they see the level of creativity and the uniqueness of it. They see something like Guardians of the Galaxy, they see the creativity, they see the uniqueness of it. DC games have just been Batman. All that we can celebrate from DC games is the Arkham franchise. And that's it. And then maybe Injustice. But Injustice, it's a fighting game. It's kind of its own beast.
That's what I was gonna like. Is Injustice now in trouble as well? Like, are we ever gonna see Injustice 3?
I think Injustice 3 at this point, it seems like a surefire bet, I will say, because they want to go all in on DC. They want to do a lot with DC, and they do mention Mortal Kombat, but I don't think that they want NetherRealm making Mortal Kombat until they die. I think NetherRealm wants a bit of a break from MK. Because going from MK11 to MK1, you can kind of see where they were starting to slip. That like 4-year sort of gap that they were always able to give themselves between an Injustice game to a Mortal Kombat game allowed them to really shape the story of the Mortal Kombat game, rather than it's from what I can tell, and this is just my assumption, this is just me guessing, just looking at the signs. From what I can tell, MK1 seemed very much like a game that was not supposed to be Mortal Kombat 1, but then was turned into Mortal Kombat 1 at some point in its development, because it just the story just doesn't come together. It's all
over the place. Yeah.
It looks like we were really trying to wrap up very quickly, and even with the DLC that they did, Chaos Reigns.
Just how it ends, you're like, that's
same
it.
Thing. It's just like, whoa, like we're rushing to the finish line here. Whereas if you looked at MK11, now MK11 as a fighting game, very different conversation to have. I think it's a lot slower and it's a lot worse as a fighting game. But story-wise, my goodness, they were firing.
The story was a movie.
It's awesome.
It was a movie.
It's
so
awesome.
good.
And then the DLC for that game was legit one of the best MK stories I played. Like so freaking good. Bringing back Kerry Tagawa, the original actor of Shang Tsung from the 90s movie, to play Shang Tsung in that DLC and to play Shang Tsung in that game. That's just freaking genius. It's genius. They were going crazy with that. And then obviously they didn't follow up to that same caliber with MK1. And I think part of that is just because they need that break. They need that buffer. So I do think Injustice 3 is like an inevitability at this point. I think it's almost a surefire bet that we're going to get an Injustice 3 next.
And those stories are good too. Like that's like they're like another movie.
Dude, the Injustice storyline in general, for a lot of people, it's what got them into comic books. The comic book tie-in as well. It's one of the most popular stories out there. And it's crazy that all comes from NetherRealm. It all comes from it's their brainchild. So yeah, I think Injustice, that's still happening. I don't think we see NetherRealm making MK until they die, but it looks like Rocksteady are just the Batman guys until they die now.
That's it.
They had to undo everything. That to undo everything with that last update for Suicide Squad in a little motion comic, and now they're going to go back to Batman, and who knows how they're going to be able to pick up the pieces of the mess that they made with Suicide Squad.
I mean, they'd have to do shoot, what am I blanking on right now?
Batman Beyond.
Batman Beyond. They'd have to do that at this point, right? Like that's pretty much the only avenue that they haven't done.
It seems like
it.
Yeah. But I here's the thing. The thing that kind of like, again, it goes back to like WB in regards to like, because they're the gatekeepers of the IP, and instead of doing the Marvel method of basically like, hey, studios pitch us. What do you want to make? Like, do you want to make a Spider-Man game? Do you want to make a Wolverine game? Do you want to make a Venom? Do you want to make a Midnight Suns? Like, pitch us what you want, and kind of like the IP is yours. But I feel like the WB sort of thinks that, unless they have already a movie or a TV show in the works, or even like because I know that's changed since then, because it used to be that if there's a movie in the works, or even the remote possibility of a movie, then there's no TV show, or there's no possibility of that character showing up on any other even TV show, not even just having their own show. And I know that games was sort of a similar thing, like because apparently I heard today that there was going to be a Dark Knight game set in the same using the same oh yeah, that's right, yeah, it was for Monolith, yeah. So and that got canceled. So because WB holds so much of their IP close to the chest, they feel like that they are the guardians of it. They feel like that they need to protect it, and because that they're just like, you know what, you do this. You make a Batman game. You got to make this Batman game. You got to make it the way we want it. You can make it however you want. Rocksteady, do whatever you want. You create the Arkham universe, but you got to do it this way. And it's like they get noted to death. They basically are just they micromanage everything. I mean, guaranteed, I probably would think that, I would imagine, I mean, I don't know, Aaron, if you would know or can be able to talk about it if you do know, but I would imagine that probably a few years near the end of Suicide Squad's run, production run, they probably were like, we don't want to do this. Like, this is not working. And I can imagine that's probably maybe even the same thing with Monolith being like, we can't do this. We can't make this the way that you want, like telling WB. We can't make this the way Zaslav you want it. This is not gonna. Oh yeah, you want us to tie into a movie universe that doesn't exist anymore. Or I don't know, whatever it was.
Down to exactly too, right? Like the existence of Suicide Squad as a game goes down to them being like, guys, we put out that one movie, they made a ton of money, so people really love Suicide Squad. We should just do everything Suicide Squad from now. Like,
yeah,
ignoring
that's the idea. Oh yeah, let's do it.
Ignoring that the movie had like a 26% on Rotten Tomatoes and it was chopped up by a freaking trailer editing studio.
Yep.
Completely ignoring all that, saying, guys, it made $750 million at the box office. It was a massive hit that we did not expect. We need more of that. We need a lot more of that. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. There's so much. There's a lot just from the top, decision making wise, that have been completely mismanaged, that have been all over the place, and it's led to a lot of big bombs and failures and disasters, honestly. And so I all we can hope is that from this point forward, like, lessons have been learned and we can start to see some great quality games, but I don't know what to expect.
Not for a while though.
Like, yeah,
as long as WB or whoever's in charge of it, like a WB Games, changes and like anytime soon, I don't think this is like the path of the four pillars of IP is not going to work for them.
I only have even like the slightest bit of hope for another Arkham game, simply because Arkham Origins was in a very similar position with WB Montreal. They were like, WB came to them and they're like, we need an Arkham game to bridge the gap from the amount of time it's going to take to make Arkham Knight. So make this game in 2 years. And granted, it was a buggy mess when it came out and it used a lot of assets from Arkham City. Yeah. It was still a very well-written game.
Yes.
And it's still, at the very least, baseline, has the Batman Arkham combat that you know and love. And so if we can get another Arkham game that is of that same vein, minus the buggy mess at launch part, then at least we have something there. You know, like we have a starting point.
Even taking a look at the example of Arkham Shadow, critically and well received by the fans. Like it is a true Arkham game, not made by Rocksteady, and I would all pretty much argue it actually is better than Arkham Origins in a lot of ways. Like they really took the time, Camouflage really took the time to be able to recreate an amazing universe and be able to do it in a way in VR that is not only a great VR game but also a great Arkham game. So it's proof, like they're proof that essentially if you use other studios, they do have the same reverence, they do have the same love for these characters and these IP, that if you give them the time to let them cook, you're going to create a lot. Like, yeah, maybe not necessarily a 30+ million selling copy of Hogwarts Legacy, which in reality was a huge fluke in and of itself. Like, there's no one expected that. There was a lot of
factors with that game, especially with people
but there was no one
to see the game because people were complaining about the game as well, right?
Right, but no one expected it to sell that well. Yeah. even WB did not expect it to sell that well. But
Yeah.
if you can get a few, like, here's what I would love to see WB and DC do. Is if they can be able to again expand out their IPs to allow a lot of more studios outside of WB games to join, to basically to partner up with either a WB studio or WB in general and just create it like create a game within their IPs, whatever they want to do, and allow them to be able to maybe not necessarily create a huge AAA game or a huge like live service game, but create these small little like games, maybe in the kind of the AA level, like a 10 to 20 hour game. And you allow them to be able to kind of take like fans of these franchises, fans who can be able to know the lore back and front. Like imagine seeing like an Assassin's Creed type game. I'm just pulling the things out of my head, like an Assassin's Creed type game for within the like Green Arrow universe, like or like basically, or even taking like a basically a Green Lantern game and turning that into like I don't know, like a Telltale like game or something like that. Like basically creating these smaller type games that are not going to sell the 10 20 million copies, but sell like 1 million, 2 million, 3 million there, 4 or 5 million if it plays well, if it gets critically acclaimed. You get a bunch of those together, you'll eventually get that 30 million, and you would have spent less than the 100 million you just wasted on Wonder Woman.
And the more that you shell out to these other passionate developers, the more you have the opportunity to catch that lightning in a bottle. Look at Marvel Rivals. Rivals, and Marvel Rivals is the equivalent of what WB wanted Multiverse to be. Marvel Rivals, it has killed Overwatch. It is the new Overwatch.
Yeah,
like
100%.
It's not even like you can't even make a debate about this. It is for everyone that played Overwatch, that loved Overwatch. It is their new Overwatch.
It is literally a genre killer. It killed basically the hero shooter genre because that is now the hero shooter.
It is massive now. It's profitable. It's made over 100. It's close to $200 million, I think, in profit right now. It's made tons and tons of money. They got NetEase behind it, one of the biggest developers out there. And granted, we still hear stories about studios getting laid off and stuff under NetEase, even under all that success. It's just such a reflection of how cooked the games industry is. But still, like, what I'm trying to say is when you can allow your IP to be borrowed by these third-party companies, when you can allow your IP to be shelled out to all these different developers, the more chances you can get to have that lightning in a bottle, to get that Hogwarts Legacy level of success that you're chasing after over and over and over again. But you're totally right, Steve. Not every game needs to sell 30 million copies, and not every game needs to cost $200 million. Sometimes it's okay to make a 10 to 12 hour linear action adventure game that doesn't always have to be the biggest open world, the most realistic graphics. We don't need that.
thought of one right now.
Like side-scrolling games, we just had like Scribblenauts, like
you totally do like a 2D game.
Like I remember one of the best Batman games I played for like growing up was like the NES Batman game, just like the side-scroller Batman game. Like
imagine taking the the RE engine that Capcom has and putting that into basically the horror genre with Constantine. Imagine a Resident Evil type game, but with Constantine and magic and supernatural. Like, I would buy the shit out of that because you have people that are passionate about what the ultimate thing that makes those characters work. And the why these characters work within these specific genres. Like you get a Constantine for a horror, you get a stealth type game with Green Arrow, or you get a massive open world with a Flash game. I don't know. Like
I'm gonna explain to you as a consumer how what you just said totally works. Okay, for me, I do not play card games. I don't. I do not like card games. I saw a Marvel logo, and I was like, let me just try it. And now I have over 1,000 hours in Marvel Snap. Okay? Over 1,000 hours. I saw the Marvel logo. I saw that they had these cool cards with comic covers and this and that they were utilizing as the art in the game. I was like, let me just try it just because I'm into the Marvel brand like that. What you just pitch about a Constantine game, I guarantee you there are so many consumers out there that would be of the same thing. Some people out there just gonna say, I love me some Resident Evil. I love me some horror games. Alan Wake, this and that, right? They see the DC logo and they're like, wait a sec. This is even more intriguing. Or you got somebody who maybe isn't into that genre of games. But they see the DC logo and they're like, wait, I know that property. Let me try this out.
Even literally going back to your Marvel Rivals example, you have a Concord versus a Marvel Rivals. What basically was the differentiating factor in there? You have a Marvel logo and a Rivals, and you have the same genre, hero shooter. You have a hero shooter, brand new genre, brand new characters, brand new everything, and you got a game that would, on the surface, sounds like on paper would be a success. Lasted 2 weeks. Marvel Rivals. What is it like? How many players do they have? This game has at this point 10 million players plus.
It's 20 million players.
20 million.
Strong. Concurrents are like at 100 to 200 to 300,000 almost every single day. My cat is jumping into my display case back there.
It's fine. But guaranteed, like as you said, you put a DC logo on a game. You're gonna get people that are gonna be interested, regardless of whether or not they're gonna be like regardless of if they ever played a Resident Evil game before, even an Alan Wake, or even what I'm currently playing Silent Hill 2. I could just imagine a story imagine John Constantine walking into a haunted town that is run by basically Lucifer Morningstar himself, and you're trying to be able to solve the mystery of what's actually happening in this town, and he's trying to find whoever is a big part of his life, or I can't remember his girlfriend's name in the lore right now. It's been a minute, but imagine that story set in Silent Hill 2 and you're playing John Constantine like that.
I want that game tomorrow.
Exactly. And I would play the shit out of that. I don't play horror games, and yet I would play the shit out of that.
Why haven't we had a team-based Teen Titans game?
Give me Ultimate Alliance. Let's start at the freaking baseline. Let's start at the very bottom, guys. Let's start at the very beginning. Give me Ultimate Alliance, but with DC, man. Like, just something. Like, I need anything out of DC games that isn't just Batman.
And also, WB has also some pretty good IPs that are outside of DC, and even outside of the Harry Potter DC or Mortal Kombat kind of brand. I would fucking kill for another Matrix game, for fucking crying out loud. Like, I don't need the films to basically be successful. There are Matrix fans out there that would play the shit out of a game where you can basically like a Matrix Online, but it's all single player, where you're creating your own character, you're creating your own Awakened and you're basically having to decide between the machines, the rebels, or the humans, or the Zions. Like with Zion, I would play the fucking shit out of that game, but because the movies don't do well, we're never going to get another Matrix game for as long as we live. You have these IPs that could basically people would die to create games for. And yet WB just is like, no, it's not going to make 30 million. It's not going to sell 30 million units. Sorry, we're not interested.
I just saw this scrolling through Twitter regarding the news specifically about Monolith and the shutdown of the Wonder Woman game. I didn't even notice about this. This might have been coming from LinkedIn or something. Kind of a description of the game, and we can call this a eulogy, if you will.
Okay.
You are Wonder Woman in this single-player action-adventure game, developed by Monolith Productions. The powerful sorceress Circe has invaded your island homeland of Themyscira, leading an army of Cyclopses, Gorgons, and other monsters. It is up to you, as champion of the Amazons, to return home and fight their treachery. Use your godlike strength to deal shattering blows and tear through enemies in an epic battle to protect your birthplace from the invaders. Engage in fast-paced, free-flow combat with devastating combos and wield powerful weapons gifted by the gods, including the iconic Lasso of Truth. As this original Wonder Woman story unfolds, you must also repair your relationships with your mother, Queen Hippolyta, and your fellow Amazons who feel betrayed by your decision to leave Themyscira many years ago. Over the course of the game, you will encounter iconic DC characters, as well as a unique cast of procedurally generated allies and enemies through the power of the Nemesis system. They will remember your choices and actions and react according to their own beliefs. Fly across the open world of Themyscira as you explore the home of the Amazons and discover mythical inhabitants from Greek mythology. Fight back against the invaders and complete your quest to stop Circe from destroying your home and acquiring untold power. That is the description, it seems, for the Wonder Woman game that is no longer happening. I will say, it did sound extremely ambitious. I can see it being a project that was maybe too big. but man, oh man, it sounded cool.
I would have
Sounds
played that
damn
game
cool, man.
tomorrow.
Oh man,
It
it
sounds
sounded
so
cool.
cool.
Now, granted,
Yeah.
like obviously, it didn't sound like that there was like a nemesis system in there. So I'm wondering if that maybe was sort of the redesign that they're like, okay, we can't get the nemesis system
Well-
to work, so we're going to pare it down to just more like it sounds
It
as if they
says
were going
right
to
here,
create
it
like
says
a
right
Batman.
No, he
Through
mentioned
the
them.
power of the nemesis system, they
Oh,
will
I didn't- oh,
remember
sorry, I
your
didn't- I
choices and
missed that.
actions. Yeah, no, there was. I mean, it sounded like too that with a villain like Cersei, they were going to have all these like different like Greek mythological looking monsters, cyclopses and gorgons and stuff. They were going to essentially let that be how you utilize the nemesis system, right? The same way you had the orcs and all the ghouls and goblins of the Middle Earth storyline. They were going to have very similar, probably looking creatures with this game, which honestly could have totally worked. All of it sounds really, really cool.
all
Procedurally
I gotta say-
generated allies and enemies sounds again very ambitious.
All
Very
I
ambitious.
can think of, all I literally can think of at this point is just that meme. It's like you let them cook, like let them cook for crying out loud. It's like WB. Oh fuck, I don't know. Like, granted, we don't know what the sort of the internal internal workings was like at Monolith. It could have they could have had issues with it. We've seen that in studios all over the place. It's not necessarily only significant because it's a WB game studio.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine that there's a good percentage of that of the problems has been from WB themselves.
Yep.
Like it astounds me that essentially, like, again, just cancel the game. Try to cut your losses somewhere else, but like don't close a studio. Like that, especially one that again that's been 30 years of making great games. Sure, they weren't necessarily at the tip of the tongue of everybody's sort of like god tier list as far as the studio was concerned, but they made great games that people loved, and to be able to shut that down and like I could see, yeah, okay, unfortunate with the studio, with the Multiverse studio, I forget the name of it right now. Player First is what they call
Player
it.
first games. Yeah.
Understandable. Like, okay, you know what, they got caught in the crossfire. It's unfortunate. The first game out the door, and the studio got shut down. Unfortunate. Again, I'm not trying to be callous in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying, yeah, it's understandable that. But to see that compared to a 30-year studio, when you also have other studios that essentially have essentially failed according to WB's own ideals of what a game should launch with, when you got WB Montreal and with Rocksteady, but because they worked on Batman games, that's what gives them a pass. Like it doesn't
baffling.
make it make sense. It
It's
doesn't.
baffling. Yeah.
Fuck WB, man.
Does Gunn have an influence on this now or anything? Because wasn't he trying to make a whole universe?
Well, so there was a report just yesterday, actually, that a lot of journalists had visited DC Studios or they were in LA to talk to James Gunn and Peter Safran, and there was conversations about WB games, and apparently they're trying to be a little more hands-on. Apparently, the first DC Studios like connected to their universe game is being made, and we will see it in a couple of years. And yeah, they also made mention that they were talking to Rocksteady and NetherRealm about more DC games. So I do think Injustice 3, surefire bet. I think another Arkham game, surefire bet. It's just the question, the looming sort of cloud is going to become like, do they want to make these games or do they have to make these games?
Yeah.
And if they have to make these games, are they going to at least give it their all? Is there going to be a level of passion that they would on a game that they wanted to make? I hope so.
I mean, I think that what it really comes down to is that we're like now, like we've got 3 studios that essentially they're like so many lives have been disrupted, and they're now trying to be able to find work in an extremely toxic sort of gaming environment right now, with just jobs frozen everywhere, and there's just like 1,000 people applying for one job right now, like with the amount of people that have been laid off in the past 2 years, and it's just. I don't know when we're going to see this end. I keep hearing because I was just at DICE like 2 weeks ago, and it was starting like I'd heard the stories of people starting to spend money on games again, but it seems as if it's like on more safer bets, like a AA or like a smaller type game, not necessarily get in a AAA sort of standing. But I've been hearing the phrase "survive through 25." And I'm starting to think that, yeah, I think that's for anybody who's trying to build a work in this industry, including myself. Like, fuck, I haven't had work in so long, in quite a while, and it's just I'm just trying to survive, and it's the same across the board with a lot of developers out there, and what's unfortunate is that we're going to see talent that should have had the opportunities to be able to create the games that they wanted to create, and we may even see them leave the video game industry entirely. And it just sucks. And I even know friends who worked at who work at Monolith, and even some friends who even like moved to the Seattle area just so they could be able to work in Monolith on this game. And now they're stuck, and it just sucks like across the board. And I don't know. It just I guess I'm pissed off about WB and the state of the DC gaming universe as it is right now. But I think it's people at the end of the day that make games, and when we shut out the people who are making games, this industry is not going to last. And I say that with like. I can't even believe I just said that. Like we're at a point where we could like if we let the greedy folks win, this video game the video game industry is going to collapse. And I hate that.
Yep.
Oh boy.
100% agree. Well, with that being said, we'll move on to the next topic, which is Fable being delayed. But just before that, I just had a question for you, Kabuska. I know both you and I, we big Marvel rival players and everything like that. Do you think they're coming out with too many characters too fast?
So
because let me just paint you the picture here. Overwatch from 2016 to 2018, 6 characters came out. Marvel Rivals
in 2 years?
In 2 years, 6.
Well, that feels like it would be on par.
We're still at season 1.
We're at 4.
And then they're showing off like, hey, Blade's coming soon. Like there he is, chained up.
In some respects, I feel you, but Mr. Fantastic didn't come out. He wasn't OP. Invisible Woman is a good addition to the roster of healers. The Thing is honestly a great addition.
He's really a good tank. He's a really good tank.
Human Torch came out and he wasn't that OP. So I'm not worried. I think
that's 4 characters. We're still on season 1.
I think they're coming out with a steady pace, and the game's balance is in a really good spot.
Yeah.
I think they have a really good economy of like characters that you can counter pick with. The ban system I think is very, very good for the game. It's very healthy for the competitive scene. I think the game it's going strong, man. It's going strong.
I know the game's going strong. I'm happy with the game, but part of me is like, okay, I know you guys have literally Pandora's box from any character, and that's the difference between this and Overwatch, where they had to create the character and be like, okay, this character's gonna be the healer. Well, but instead of like Marvel Rivals, you could be like, well, this person's perfect for a healer. Let's just grab this. Yoink, let me just take this person and put it in our game in a way. Like that's the difference between the two, which is why I feel like they're able to like. There's more characters.
More, yes.
Yeah, like and a part of me is like, okay, you guys need to slow down like a little bit. Like,
but I think
like,
as well that's
so
why,
many characters coming out.
It makes their jobs a little bit easier because they can also look at a character from the comic books and say, "Ooh, we have an interesting idea for gameplay there," you know, and whether or not they're utilizing that idea from like the foundations of an Overwatch character, or they're just saying like, "Hey, like this could be cool for Mr. Fantastic, or this could be cool for Human Torch." They're making it work. They're making it work. The team very clearly loves these Marvel characters.
Yep.
They know what's fun about those Marvel characters and what makes them interesting, and they know how best to utilize those characters in a third-person shooter.
All I'm saying is just don't blow too early.
I know,
okay?
I know.
That's all I'm just saying.
I will say, I think I can't remember if they mentioned this or not, but I could have sworn they said something about this season specifically being like a supersized season.
Okay.
Where they normally won't have 4 character releases in one season.
Yeah. Get a whole family jumping in there. But my kid's got to join in the game.
We got the Fantastic Four, and I feel like
I understand because the movie's coming out.
And you can't parse out the Fantastic Four over like 2 whole seasons that spans 6 months. You know what I mean? It's just like get them out the door. You know.
Here's the question: when is that momentum going to dry up? I mean, we're
That is a good question.
That's
we
what
are.
I mean. Like they're going too fast.
Well, I mean, even if if you cut the amount of characters they've released like by half for just the first season, like it's still a good decent pace to basically for a first season of a game that is obviously super popular. Like I'm wondering because it's a success, is the shotgun approach of the first few seasons just giving it like just throwing characters at them is the way to satiate players, or is it the plan for seasons 1 through 7 or to be able to be like, okay, here's the roadmap of what we're looking at, or pretend here's the potential characters that are going to be coming up in the next few seasons. Like because the problem with one of the big problems with live service games is keeping that momentum going, is keeping the content going. It's either you go the Apex route, which is when they first started, they didn't have a plan to basically to continue to make seasons. They had to build that up over time, and they didn't want to crunch their developers. I'm certain pretty much Fortnite is at a pace where it's better now than it probably was, but I can imagine it's been rough for crunch for the past several years of that game being out and being successful. Like I'm scared that Marvel Rivals is going to go into the same thing too. Like
I'm worried too. I totally see where you're coming from. I think the only difference, the only thing that kind of calms my fears is that NetEase is just so massive. I think they've got like 30,000 people that work at NetEase. It is one of the biggest development studios out there. And granted, they're making tons and tons and tons of games, and they're obviously very big in the mobile market. But I imagine it's at this point, considering the profitability and how big Marvel Rivals is, it's got to be like all hands on deck. Like they probably got as many people as they can working on that game.
Yeah. Actually, tying into what we were even just talking about earlier, I was kind of scrolling through Blue Sky, and I saw this like article from IGN, like half sequels like Uncharted Lost Legacy are the future. So, and Matt Kim even says like fewer but bigger. It's exactly the kind of things that got the industry into this mess. Better and smaller should be the way to go. And you're right. I'm seeing NetEase kind of like taking that lesson from it's like basically making a bunch of different games, but not necessarily making huge amount of games. I think that's what I'm like Embracer Group, like that's what they were trying to do, was that trying to be able to create so many big huge games, and they're just buying up studios to be able to do that, and obviously it was a huge failure. They went for what was they said there was one this deal that they were going to make to be able to, like, it was a $2 billion deal or something like that, and it fell through. I can only imagine Embracer? It was probably for Embracer Group. Yeah, that was one of the reasons why they had to sell and lay off a whole bunch of people, is because they were about to do a financial update or whatever, fiscal update, and they said that it was literally a deal that was supposed to come through that would have set them up for life or whatever, but it fell through at the end, at the last minute, and it was like a $2 billion deal or something like that. So Embracer Group was going for the bigger, more and bigger games, but whereas like NetEase seems to kind of like, let's release just a bunch of different games, like a bunch of smaller games, mobile, AAA, AA. Let's just go with it. And not say that NetEase is the best way to go about it, but I mean, I even just saw something that apparently, like, I forgot that Quantic Dream is owned by NetEase, and Star Wars Eclipse is still going ahead.
They got the Valorant equivalent, Fragpunk's coming out in 10 days.
Yeah, so they're obviously doing something right, but I think it's like in order to be sustainable right now, you have to I think my prediction is we're probably going to see a few open world, fewer less open world games and larger games over the next couple of years. We're going to see a bunch of smaller 10 to 20 hour type games again.
Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Exactly. And honestly,
Spider-Man 2s.
And honestly, I'm on board with that. I'm okay with that. Sure, yes. Would I love a big sequel? Would I love whenever if it's something, I'm going to make a Spider-Man 3? I know you saw that there was news about apparently being was it the Yuri was said that that there's going to be more of Peter Parker in the
Spider-Man
next one?
is in Spider-Man 3. Wow.
Yeah, he was.
Oh my god!
It was weird that it made so many headlines, but I think it's just because he said anything. It was for some reason when Spider-Man 2 came out, I mean, I think we can talk about the spoilers at this point. Everybody's played it, I imagine. And if you haven't, well, you're avoiding it. It's on PC now. The ending has Peter kind of saying hey, I'm going to take a little bit of a step back. Miles, you got this. Take care of the city. I need a break. And everyone took that as he's retired. That's it. No more Peter Parker. And it's
Isn't that like the starting of Miles
Come
Morales?
on.
Doesn't
They're
he take a
also
break as
teasing.
well?
They're also teasing Spider-Man's biggest villain for the next game. We're gonna
Yeah.
have Green Goblin,
Oh,
and he's
yeah, that's
teaming
right.
up with Doc Ock to
Yeah.
the biggest Peter Parker specific Spider-Man villains. You think he's sitting this one out?
No,
Genuinely?
that's what's gonna bring him out. Like they keep bringing me back.
I'll tell you too. I know that they're playing it for the emotional beat. The game's gonna start with you as Miles, and Peter's gonna be like, "I'm chilling," and then Green Goblin and Doc Ock shows up, and he's got to put the mask and the suit back on.
Yep.
And I'm willing to bet Spider-Man 3 ends with like the death of Peter Parker or something like that. But anyways, the
honestly,
reason why I made all those headlines is because everyone was just like, "Oh my god, he talked about it," you know. Sorry.
Here's my thought of like how that was going to play out, because I was starting to think about this after like playing Spider-Man 2. Because you're right, like I think 100% it's going to be it's Green Goblin, Doc Ock, basically, and Miles has to try to take them on, and they're not like he's not able to handle it, and he needs to get Peter Parker back again. But what brings Peter Parker back again? The death of Mary Jane.
Ooh.
Now Peter's on a revenge mission. Now it's similar to basically kind of a Spider-Man 2, because we've seen him a little bit on a vengeance-ish, but that was when he's got the symbiote on him. Imagine what like a grieving, like mad out for revenge Peter Parker against Green Goblin and Doc Ock.
I'm with that.
Yeah.
I whatever it is, I can't wait to see.
Chills.
I can't wait to see. Yeah, it was very weird that anybody out there assumed that they were not going to have Peter Parker Spider-Man in the next big Spider-Man game. Like I thought that was just silly to even assume that.
I just find it silly that like the fact he's like, oh, I'm gonna step back for a bit. He did that for Miles Morales at the beginning of the game. He went on a trip. He's like, I'm gonna go away for a while.
Yes,
That was the whole plot of Miles Morales.
But
like,
I think this was more of like him saying like, I need to, even when I'm here, you don't need me in the suit all the time, you know?
Yeah, basically Miles Morales, he was kind of like the substitute Spider-Man for a bit, but in this, like after Spider-Man 2, like he's Spider-Man. He's the New York Spider-Man at that point. So I don't know. Yeah. Anyway,
we'll see.
But sorry.
I was gonna move on to the next one, which is Fable is being delayed till 2026. Craig Duncan and Rare have confirmed that Fable has been pushed back to 2026. This was announced at the Xbox official Xbox podcast. How dare they use their own official podcast to announce Unbelievable. How dare they? But it did seem like to show off some new stuff here as well. Actually, if you ever had a chance to look at either the article that here we're looking at from Xbox Era, or they're from the Xbox podcast as well. But any surprised by this, by Fable being delayed?
No.
Anyone upset?
No. Honestly, I'm okay with it.
I'm outraged. Actually.
Oh, really?
No, honestly, like I'm fine with it. I always kind of looked at when they announced that it was coming in 2025. I was like, this is probably like a late 2025 game. And so the delay for me, I'd also imagine we can still expect this to see this in like the spring of 26. So if it is delayed, I can't imagine it's going to be delayed for that long. Because as well, I think what was really cool is they announced a delay, but to kind of sugarcoat it, if you will, or to ease the pain, they also showed like some pre-alpha footage. They showed a little bit of the game. It looks beautiful. The visuals are like astonishing. And yeah, like I'm in for some of the things that we're seeing. I know Fable for a lot of people is a really beloved franchise, so I'm sure this is a really hyped up game, and we don't
was that going to be their fall game, I guess? Like what's like,
maybe I don't know.
No, I think the Outer Worlds 2 was going to be their fall game.
Yeah,
that's my guess.
Yeah. I know too that for Xbox these days especially, there aren't a lot of like true like this is an Xbox exclusive game. Fable is one of those franchises that they've just had. And so I imagine they want a big win out of it. So if they need a little bit of extra time to polish or make it great, then so be it. This doesn't look, at least from the signs, like what we saw with Halo, where it was with Halo Infinite, where it was like, oh, that gameplay preview was rough. and then they delayed it a year, and they didn't have it be a launch title for the Series X, and you're like, something's got to be going wrong, and then it doesn't end up being the big hit that they want it to. Fable looks like it's in good shape from what they showed. That pre-alpha footage looked, honestly, it looks rather strong. I really liked what I'm seeing.
And I didn't even like think about it, but like, because I was wondering if this was going to be labeled as, because what, it'd be a Fable 4? That's what this would have been.
I think
like,
technically, yeah.
But what's interesting is that they're kind of, if you think, it seems as if they potentially might be going sort of like the soft reboot kind of route by just calling it Fable, and without like a number or a subtitle to it. So I'm saying, hey, if they're essentially going to soft reboot the franchise into potentially that we're like, it's going to like launch newer Fable games now with like kind of similar to like, i.e. God of War 2018. Let's go that route. I'm okay with that because I've never played a Fable game. I've always wanted to, but I've been looking forward to this one. So yeah, I'd say I'm totally cool with them delaying if they feel like they need that extra time. Because I think Xbox is kind of in that good space right now, regardless of what you think of this as an Xbox or multi-platform, whatever. They're in a good spot finally right now that we're at a point where they don't need a Fable to carry their year. They've already got a huge, basically, amount of like of releases over the first half of this year, and we still don't really know fully of what the rest of the year is going to be like, other than potentially Outer Worlds 2.
Is Gears coming out this year?
No, I thought was Gears. Did they say it was going to be 2025? I thought it was going to be 20. They didn't have a date on it.
They 2025, 2026, but
they didn't put a date on it when they did that announcement at the showcase. But I can't remember. I thought I had read a report that it was coming along quicker than people expect, and I think
I'm hearing like
see it
late
next year.
2025. Oh, okay.
If it's this year, I would be very surprised.
I would be very surprised. The fact that they announced it last showcase,
because I think if if it was 2025 or if that was ever the projection, they would have just said in the last showcase that it's 2025.
Yeah, I definitely think if it is going faster than expected development time, I'd say 2026 for sure. Because then, if you think about it as well, like again, Xbox is basically like if South of Midnight launches well, if Expedition 33 launches well, if Doom the Dark Ages also launches well, they've already got a solid year, and that's not even including whenever they're going to release Indiana Jones for PS5 too, and that's going to sell pretty well. That's going to set up the Xbox for the rest of the year. They don't need a Fable or a Gears E-Day to set them up for this year. They could push that to the Gears and Fable to next year, and they've already got two solid games that are highly anticipated that I think could potentially do well. That could set them up for a really great 2026, regardless of whatever else that they put out, and like even with the few that they've kind of already announced, we still don't know Perfect Dark when that's going to come out. There's even a few others that were announced in last year's showcase, and whatever's going to be announced in this year's showcase. Like they're at a point now. Xbox is cooking, and we can smell it. It smells good. And you know what? Hey, if we got to delay a few minutes, basically for a few other things, ingredients to let them sort of sit and simmer for a bit, I'm okay with that. You're all right at this point. It's better that we're at a point where we're a little bit full at the moment instead of starving.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I believe like they got a game coming out every month leading up to like Summer Game Fest era.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
That potentially puts this Summer Game Fest this Summer Game Fest to basically be like huge for Xbox. Like we thought last year was supposed to be huge because just with the amount of what they had, and it turned out to be the best showcase, not only just for Xbox in the past couple years, but best showcase period in the past couple years. Yeah. I could the momentum going into June is going to be like
Midnight, Doom.
Sorry, I'll say this because I was looking into it. I'm trying because I swear I thought you might have been right, Marcel. I thought I had read a report about it, the Gears of War coming out this year. I'm trying to find that. I haven't been able to find anything in regards to rumors that the game might come out this year, but I have read that the 20th anniversary for Gears of War is next year. And so I feel that'll
be a perfect time to restart.
Pretty good lineup in terms of timing to release the new one.
Oh, Ninja Gaiden's this fall.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Ninja Gaiden 4. Yeah.
Oh my god! And then of course there'll be some Black Ops, something.
There'll be some sort of Call of Duty that's gonna like.
Oh my god!
Again, Xbox. You may laugh at like the Xbox acquisitions, but they're doing well. Like they're doing extremely well. I mean, and now the first party is also cooking in that regard. Like oh man, like we're gonna be eating well with Xbox games for the next little bit. Still don't know what that's going to be like for PlayStation. I want PlayStation to like with all the projects they've potentially got in the works. I want to know more about it. But again, I think we're kind of in that state of, I can't remember if I said that before on this podcast or even my own, but I think we're at a state with PlayStation where Xbox was the beginning of the pandemic, where there just wasn't enough games to basically to release, and then the pandemic kind of like hindered them from releasing the games they want at the time that they want. Whereas PlayStation, I feel like that we're feeling that effects now because they had a lot already on the dock for that first few years of PlayStation, first few years after the pandemic, and now we're kind of in that spot with PlayStation. So, I mean, we got Ghost of Yotei still this year. We've got what else we got for PlayStation first party?
My mind's a blank after that.
I mean, we have Wolverine, but who knows when that's coming?
Who knows when that's
yeah.
Maybe next year.
Borderlands apparently. Well, that's not going to be a exclusive.
Weird that they're getting like such a hard push from PlayStation. They got like this big PlayStation marketing rights for it. They're going to have a whole state of play for Borderlands. Like, I think it's crazy.
I know, and also. And the big albatross that is in the industry right now that we still don't know when it's coming out. GTA 6.
Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
I mean, Rockstar or Take-Two, it's Take-Two, right?
Yep.
They swear up and down fall 2025.
Yep.
If that was the reason why that Fable got delayed,
maybe that's why Fable's like, hey, get this out
of the way. You know what?
You
know get away from it all.
Yeah.
You know what?
We're releasing January, February.
You know what's so tough about like this big game of chicken that we're playing right now in the games industry is if GTA 6 gets delayed, like if they're like, we got to move it to spring 26. You're gonna hear this collective sigh across the entire industry where they're like,
and you're gonna see so many announcements of like, we got this release date, this release date. It's gonna be insane.
Imagine all of these games, all of these devs that are delaying their games to like spring 26, and then GTA, and they're doing that delay because of GTA in the fall, and then GTA gets pushed to the spring of 26.
Imagine this. Imagine how many studio heads have probably tried to call Rockstar, being like, "When are you fucking releasing?
Let us know.
Let us know right now.
Just tell us now, please."
I am Phil Spencer. Let me know right now. When is this game coming out?
I will say though, there has to be some level of knowledge at the top, right? Like I imagine.
I would think so.
You make the joke, but Phil Spencer's got to have some connections or contacts to have a bit of information about that, right? Like
I mean, we also do have a hint. I mean, if you think about it, they said Borderlands coming out September. They did say they were going to try to
Borderlands
separate
is going
the two.
into the belly of the beast, man.
Yeah, but also, I mean, here's the thing. I was going to talk about this before, but have you guys going to notice that basically the biggest time of the year to release games now is like February, March?
Yeah.
More than honestly like
February,
the fall and holiday season.
Yeah. February, March, we get like nothing in the summer. It's all game reveals in the summer.
Yep.
And then we get the big fall season. That's
this
kind
summer
of been
is
the
going
way
to be
the cycle
different
is
though.
going.
I'm calling it.
Oh, you think so?
Doom.
Switch is coming
We got
out.
Doom is getting May.
Coming out, and then that's going to be takeover. There's been the summer of Nintendo. That's what's coming out right now.
It really should be.
It will be the summer of Nintendo.
Honestly,
Switch 2.
to be honest, you would think in general that the summer would be like prime time to put your games out because that's when the kids are going to get out.
Kids are out.
Yeah. Oh my
God.
I'm
the
surprised
Switch
that it
is
hasn't
handheld. You're
become-
going on trips and everything.
I'm surprised that it hasn't become the norm to put the games out around that time. But I think part of it, a big part of it is a lot of these studios really not necessarily rely on, but they want that awards acclaim. And recency bias, as much as we like to pretend is not a thing, it tends to be. It tends to be. And so games that came out in January that might be a game of the year contender versus a game that comes out in October that's a game of the year contender, the one that came out in October has just the bigger chance because
Yep.
people just have that mindset immediately of like it's the award season.
I think it's a bit of that. It's a bit of recency bias for sure, but I think it's also if you have a big splash in January, February, March, like a Helldivers, like a Final Fantasy, like when you have like that kind of like that just sort of becomes a big hit during that time. I think there's people are going to be like, well, we need to take a look at what released at the beginning of the year. Oh yeah, these games 100%. That's definitely in that game of the year conversation.
For sure.
But like anyone else
in
is sort
December, don't forget about Indiana Jones. That came out December, like
that. I think, and it already has won several awards. I mean, even with Dice already. So I can definitely see like there's like they ain't stopping anytime soon. And
then PlayStation versions coming out soon, I think, right? Or
that I think is also going to help them in the game of the year conversation too. I mean, it's going to be interesting because it would have come out. Yeah, no, actually, it'll come out the same year, even within the Game Awards, sort of like their own sort of timeline. So, yeah. Oh man, I just realized. Yeah, we're gonna have it like if everything works out the way that it's been predicted / announced, this year could be a big year. I mean, we're talking a good year for Xbox. We're talking a good year for Nintendo. We're talking like, wow, I don't know what PlayStation's got plans for, but it's just like GTA is going to like save the industry. Apparently, like it's just
all I know is that GTA moment, just announcing the release date is going to be like the historical moment, like when Peter Moore showed the Halo 2 tattoo. Like that's like it, like burnt in my head. I'm like, you remember when this guy did that? Like announcing just GTA's like release date is gonna be like historical moment, like a heritage moment for Canadians.
Yeah.
I mean, like I also like to like I mean whatever that announcement is, it's going to be like it's going to break records because like I'm just looking at back because I was like remembering I was like didn't like the trailer for GTA 6 break records? Yeah, it did. It basically is a Guinness Book World Records
and it leaked.
Surpasses GTA's 5 record by more than 100%. GTA 6 scheduled to release its fall 25 has continued setting new benchmarks in the gaming industry this year as its trailers garnered over 230 million views.
Jesus Christ, just for a trailer.
Yeah,
I know.
Throw some ads in there, you know.
And that was like so when did the trailer was announced? Because they said this is as of December 30th, 2024. I'm sure when GTA 6 trailer?
Was it 2023?
It was 23. It was like
23
right around
December.
the time of the Game Awards or
Game Awards, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was that first week. That's right, because they didn't.
They're like, screw you, Jeff.
It has 242 million views.
Insanity.
Damn.
I mean, it took over Times Square. I was in New York around that time too, and I saw like all the billboards and everything in Times Square was all GTA 6. So it doesn't matter. They could put out 2 trailers and that's it. It's still going to be $2 billion on pre-order.
They don't need to do really any marketing. They can just basically just like, one trailer announcing the release date and then basically like trailer saying it's out now. And that's it. That's all the marketing they need to do. People are going to be excited for it.
They find money somehow. They'll be like, give me the game.
What Rockstar needs to focus on more than anything in the world is I imagine what they're going to do with GTA Online. Is GTA Online going to become its own entity? Is GTA 6 going to have its own GTA Online? What are they going to do with that? Because that's the real money. All right. Yeah. Like GTA 6 as a story game is going to be something people will play and they're going to buy it and they're going to go crazy about it for sure. Yeah. But the long-term longevity is going to be all right. How do we evolve GTA Online?
Well, they already there was that story that popped up I think the other either last week or the week before about because they had purchased the basically the company that or whatever the group that was making a bunch of mods for GTA 5. Yes. They own that now.
So they're going to have like those RP elements implemented. Yes. Honestly, really, really smart and so genius to just not just essentially shut them down and say don't do that and then try to do it themselves, but say, hey guys, like.
Yeah, make their own like
come here.
Basically make their own modes like they do it like they said within Fortnite and Roblox. Like imagine this. Like I'll just say like even just because one of the biggest sort of like IPs that they kind of went with Fortnite was like Lego Fortnite. Yeah. Imagine a Lego version of GTA 6. I don't think they could because Lego is very much family friendly.
Yeah,
but like
that'd be crazy. Roblox
will go along with it.
It's
Roblox
so
would,
interesting. It's so interesting that you bring up the RP stuff, because I feel like I wouldn't necessarily say that it like saved GTA Online. I think GTA Online still had such a healthy player base and was making tons and tons and tons of money, but it kind of like reinvigorated that love for playing GTA Online again. You know, people doing the whole RP thing, all the like the funny things you can do. You know, I had a buddy of mine who was like pretending to be a mob boss, and he was always like going to war with the guys who were playing the cops in his server, and like things like that. Like it just sounded so fun. It's
a soap opera.
Fun.
People tune in to watch it. Like it's crazy.
There's like a movie being made. I think like Hamlet. In GTA 6,
it's
being released
Hamlet.
or not GTA 6, in GTA Online, it's being released in theaters. So like people do some crazy, like wild out there stuff with GTA Online, and you got to respect it. And yeah, I'm sure Rockstar, that more than anything, more than their main story of GTA 6 or any of that, what they're really holding close to the chest is how they're going to evolve GTA Online and take it a step further, because that's going to be the cash cow for the next 10 15 years for them until they put out GTA 7 while they got like a Red Dead 3 in between.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Or even Red Dead alone, they have their own RP.
Because to this day, of all the live services, of all the Fortnites of the world, Apex Legends, Call of Duty Warzones, GTA Online is still right up there. As games that constantly
game of the year every single year. It doesn't, no matter what, for 10 years. 10 years.
It is mechanically game. It is mechanically, gameplay wise, everything. It is a freaking anomaly that game exists. Like
it was a 360 game, and it's still like.
Didn't they just put out an update basically to update it for the PS5 Pro or something like that?
Remember how many times we were trolled seeing the Rockstar logo at friggin' Game Awards, and it was just another GTA 5 update.
Exactly.
But that is how big GTA 5 is. That is how big
it stops the world.
It does. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's gonna stop the world, and whenever that comes out, like it's gonna. Oh my god! Like they better invest in.
Like, you gotta remember where you were when you heard the release date. You're like,
I have a theory.
I was robbing a bank when I heard GTA 6 is coming out. All right, I'm like, hey, you guys keep the money. I'm good.
I do have a theory that they may not launch with GTA Online, with GTA 6 Online. Just to kind of, because like imagine like launching a game plus also trying to be able to launch an online service with that, like they're gonna have like they would need servers the size of the US in order for them to be able to like handle the amount of traffic that's gonna get. And so it's like that's a lot of money to you ever if I can't remember where it was.
And the story will carry over, and that's how it was GTA 5. The online wasn't ready right away.
Yeah.
So
it's man, like can't believe
no PC version either yet right away either. So like that I'm curious about that part, especially with the role playing and everything. So
I'd imagine it's probably just the setting up the servers and stuff like that, and the role playing and the modding and that kind of stuff. Because I think I'm willing to bet at this point the game is done. It's just all the extra stuff that basically the online, the modding, the PC version, blah 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 blah. That's what they're currently I have a feeling that's what they're probably currently working on right now, and like the game is probably like been done for a while. And
you also get access to your GTA Veterans discount if you remember or were there the day that the GTA Online servers went up and how big of a disaster it was.
Yes,
if you were there that day and remember being stuck loading in the sky, looking at bird's eye view of the city for 25 minutes. You get your access to a GTA Veterans discount.
That's a memory unlocked just now. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. Very quickly, Xbox had their ID event, and so did Annapurna. A bunch of cool games coming out. Balatro, our good friends at Balatro, or good friend at Balatro, is one person, has got an Assassin's Creed Slay the Princess. Bug Snacks is a card deck. Dead by Daylight as well. And Critical Fallout Role. Civilization 7, really cool as well. And not only that, they got a Game Pass bag. This game sold 5 million, and then they're like, here's more money for you. A Game Pass bag as well. Like, outstanding, man. Crazy.
And all was one dude.
One dude. Suda 51 is coming with Hotel Barcelona. He's the same guy behind No More Heroes, Liza P, Overture. They showed some more stuff, which is actually a DLC for the game. That's coming out, I believe, in the summertime as well, which is, I guess, quote unquote, another Xbox-ish game in a way, but coming on PlayStation as well. What else? Moonlighter 2 is coming out. Patapon, their creators, is coming out with Ratana.
Ratatan.
Ratatan, where you want to say it. That one's coming out as well. That was like a PSP game, right? Originally? Patapon?
Patapon? Yeah, I think it was a PSP.
It was like a PSP game, yeah. Revenge of the Savage Planet, coming to Game Pass as well, May 8th. Their Canadian studio, Raccoon, and Tron Catalyst, and just a whole bunch of other things. I highly recommend checking out. So it was a bunch of good announcements for some ID games. 33 Immortals come on March 18th as well.
My two favorites that they announced in there was Rock Beasts and Wax Heads. Like, it just looks cool, man. Like, I love like the kind of like the music sort of rock band, like 90s sort of vibe. Like it just looks cool. And I always do like the ID at Xbox event. I always have like a soft spot for it, only just like because back when Twitch used to be able to run the ID at Xbox showcases, I was lucky enough to be able to host one of them or co-host one of them back in 2021. So I'm sad that Twitch doesn't do them anymore and that it is IGN producing those now. But I always have a soft spot for ID at Xbox, and they always put out some great games. So
I missed those, and when Twitch was at E3.
I mean,
I don't know. When they had like
Summer Game Fest, and they were that one year that they were there. I wanted to be there for that.
Why not do that again? I don't understand. Come on now.
I don't know.
Too many things. Anyway.
Yep, exactly. So cool event. Some pretty cool games in there.
And a Punter one as well. They came up with some announcements as well. So
awesome.
Yeah, cool. With that being said, Caboose, what's going on for you the rest of the week?
I am playing some more Marvel Rivals. That's pretty much it. I'm sad. Games that I was looking forward to are no longer happening. But we are pushing forward, and there's still lots of things to look forward to. And Marvel Rivals has been just eating up all my time. You know what I've been playing, or what I played last night? The Among Us 3D demo.
Ooh, how is it?
That was fun. That was fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
The VR always looked really fun to me.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that they just brought in like the ability to just play it on PC in like its 3D format.
Yep.
So some fun gaming nights or game nights ahead with some friends through that. And then that's it. Just you can check me out Twitter and Instagram at CabooseK. I'm on YouTube as well, uploading tons of Marvel Rivals content and just in general superhero gaming content. That's youtube.com/Caboose.
Awesome. Steve, what's going on?
So for the rest of the week, I'm still doing my daily gaming show every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. It's called Gaming Insight Daily, where I talk about the latest gaming news. So we're definitely going to be talking about the more in depth about the WB stuff tomorrow on the show. But it's a daily gaming show where I talk about gaming news, accessibility news, or just updates, about my life and stuff. So you can be able to check that out on my YouTube channel every single morning. And then I've got a few reviews kind of like in the works from a few games, and then also. On my Twitch channel, I've been streaming every Monday to Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, and I've also been playing games along with that, and currently playing Silent Hill 2 in the middle of that. If you've played it, I basically I just arrived at the prison, so I don't know what that means for folks, but I'm excited to be able to continue to play that. And also, I'm thinking about diving into some of the Steam Next Fest demos that have that came out this week. So. I may just do like a whole stream where I'm just going to jump into a bunch of demos and try them out, because I really one of them I really want to check out is that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one by Straight Scaffold. I really want to check that. There's a few others that kind of like they piqued my interest, so I might do that as well. And it's a youtube.com/@Steve Saylor, or just pretty much @Steve Saylor on Twitch, or Steve Saylor on Twitch, or just @Steve Saylor pretty much everywhere else.
Cool. For me, I got like a ton of emails like, "Hey, try our demo," and I'm like, "Dude, guys, this is too much. There's too many games."
There was that, especially that day, that first day. Boy,
there's a lot of games coming up. But I'm gonna check out to see if there's any any golden nuggets from this Steam Next Fest as well. Of course, Monster Hunter is out this Friday. Super excited. It's a must. It got a must play icon from Metacritic. It's got like a 90 right now and everything, which is outstanding. Awesome. So looking forward to playing that. I'm still playing Final Fantasy, but I've been so delayed with with other games as well, like with Avowed and other things that I'm like, I'll come back to you guys down the road and everything. So yeah, just come check me out MD14. I was on the front page on the Saturday, and that was a long 14-hour stream. So I was like, I'll be back sometime next week, everyone. So I'll probably come on tomorrow, Wednesday, or today anyway. But with that being said, have a good week, everyone, and we'll see you all here next week. Take care.